And that's exactly what we're doing. So it's not because anything is dying. It's not because there's not work being done. And it's because we have to retrieve, and we're to strategize or re-strategize, and and get back on. And that's what we're doing. And the war is on, actually. The war is on. And I'm also so grateful that we are not fighting. And we all know and pray, and that's why most of us are here, that there's another way that we can do this. We do not have to, people don't have to die. And so I want to go into this for, with us really acknowledging the difference that we're making as Cameroonian people. And what has happened, what we've been able to prove to ourselves is that we can stand as one country. We've been able to prove to ourselves that we can sustain a resistance, and that this regime is crumbling because of what we're doing. And that is the power that we have. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to let Ari start, but two things that I want to mention. We're really going to be focused on delegitimizing the regional elections. If you've never heard about it, it's a term that I also educate. Maybe you've heard about it, but don't even know what it does. And when we hear elections, we think that the election, it's a democratic process, which we're going to learn a lot today. We also, as we know, have a Villemore that's going to be coming in a ghost town Monday and Tuesday. And so we're going to be talking about that, because these are things that really can be effective. And this is really how this war is being fought, to be able to get rid of a government that is illegitimate. It cannot be in place. In the meantime, two things that I'm going to be talking about. Of course, we're going to use the chat very wisely. This is where we can have discussions. Sometimes people do put their hands up, but if you want to, ask questions from there, that is great. Please watch out for the post we're going to be putting. Again, we're going to be putting the 3 different platforms where we're streaming from, so you can share that. We're also going to be sharing the links where you can donate money, which is really important. I know Ira is going to talk about that, but the initiatives that we've been able to support is frankly because of the funds that we've been able to raise, and that is something that we're getting low on, and we need to increase on. And that's not just because all of us here are going to donate big, but it's because all of us here can impact 5 other people and have them donate. So these are some of the things that we want to keep in mind for us to meet here every time, for us to be able to have the impact that we've been able to have. Some of the things that Ari is going to be talking about, going to discuss. It is because of your welcome. Let's continue and let's get started with this very important conversation today on education for some of us. Ari, thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for starting up today. Good morning and good afternoon to you all. Thank you for joining us today for another Saturday of conversations around our beloved country. As you all know, we started Project C with the goal of leading or leaning into a peaceful transition in Cameroon. And the elections was clearly the opportunity for us to see that peaceful transition, which we must always remind ourselves that we went through an electoral process where the people clearly manifested their desire for change, voted out the regime that is currently has overlived their stay in government, and absolutely the results were stolen. And because the results were stolen, because we know what we know that the majority of Cameroonians who went out to vote voted for a president-elect, Issa Tchiroma. We know the truth, and so we must continue to advocate and fight for the truth. Our objectives have not been accomplished, but with every day that goes by, with every action that is taken, we move closer to that goal, because by every measure, of any reasonable measure, this regime is on the verge of its collapse. That's what we must believe in, and that's what we must continue to work towards. So today, we're going to cover a few things. I know many people I see in the group, people talk about what action is being taken. Let me be clear that we 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, we unveiled a strategy which we shared here with you, and which we shared in the group, and which we can continue to share if anybody needs it. But that strategy was clear. It listed 10 points, 10 points within which we would be taking action on. The overall strategy itself was to delegitimize the regime, to isolate the regime in such a way that it will not be able to function or govern or stay in place. That will eventually lead to its collapse. One of the ways that we were going to operationalize this overall strategy was civil disobedience. And civil disobedience takes the form of various activities that we will be talking about. But in the next 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, there will be ghost town in Cameroon. And this is not an afterthought. This is not by accident. There's been an investment in this process. Your investment in time, in financial resources, to make sure that this exercise of civil disobedience actually materializes. So for those who may sometimes think that there is no action, a lot of things are happening as a result of our coming together that empowers us to be able to make sure that these events that are called on actually do happen. I also want to say to everybody that it's not 100% that is going to make us successful. 30% can make us successful. Just 30% of the country taking part in this action can actually make us successful. So let's not hope that we get, let's not only think that we need 100% success. No, with 30%, 50%, or even 60% of the country participating in this endeavor, that in itself is success. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about tomorrow across the country, there are going to be elections taking place, regional elections. Regional elections, which in our eyes, and it should be in the eyes of everybody, is not legitimate in every sense of the word. We have an electoral process that we've not even sworn in the legitimate president, the duly elected president. So what is the point moving on to regional elections? Regional elections that we're going to talk about really is not representative of the Cameroonian people. And, it's only a small percentage of people who participate in that process, but which has significant ramifications going forward. So it's a process which, on one hand, the government is trying to legitimize itself, but two, is really building an infrastructure that eliminates the rest of the country from participating in a representative democracy. We're also going to really talk about support that we need from every one of us, that each one of us has to play their part for us to be successful. And we want to really ask for you to find a circle of 5, mobilize a circle of 5. And that circle of 5 becomes your trusted circle. And that's how we're going to bring change in Cameroon. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then obviously highlight other civil disobedience initiatives that will be coming down the pipeline. So this weekend is not just one-off, but it's going to be a series of action taken against the government that's going to continuously, with sustained pressure on the government over a period of time. So these are what we will be covering today. In the next 90 minutes, we'll go over all of this. Obviously, we want you to participate in the conversation. So please feel free, share your thoughts, questions. We'll open up for you to come in and be able to talk about some of this. But before that, I'm probably just going to call, I'm not probably, I will call on Eric to just come in and give us a state of the movement, where we are in terms of Project C, its vision, how it intersects with the Tchiroma team and the ongoing conversations that we're having in Cameroon. And just before I hand over to you, I just want to draw everybody's attention that anyone who at any point was thinking that we were moving forward as a country, in our democratic process, must recognize now that we have regressed, and regressed so significantly, we have to come to the realization that there's not even room for political parties in Cameroon. This is incredibly important. Just opposition parties, yes, footprint. The MRC is not even allowed to have its convention in its own building, in its own property. If that cannot happen in a country that is said to be democratic, then nothing else should be allowed to happen in that country. Yeah. And so we stand in solidarity with the MRC members who are facing this challenge. And I want to say that your challenge is our challenge. And we have to look at ourselves, not just in the guise of political parties or organizations that we represent. There's never been a time when we have to see ourselves a lot more as Cameroonians facing the same challenge. It's a beer versus 30 million Cameroonians. That is how we are defined now. And on the beer side, you probably have a handful of families that are standing in the way of millions, of 30 million Cameroonians who have dreams and hopes for a better Cameroon and yet cannot achieve that because of a few people. So let's, for once, forget about what language I speak or what tribe I come from or what political party I represent. In our pain and in our aspirations, let's get together and fight this government like we've never done before. That is the only way that we're going to win. Unity. We call for unity in ways beyond measure. I just wanted to point out that and for those of you who are part of the MRC or have political affiliations, please, this is the time for us to work together. Thank you. And I'll turn this over to Eric.
Thanks, Eric. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Yeah. Let me say hi to my brother, Etienne Tabesing, whom I haven't seen in a long time, and glad to know that he's with us. It brings a new level of energy into this. Et j'espère que tu es avec nous définitivement. Tu ne vas pas disparaître.
Oui. Non, je suis toujours là.
Okay. Hi everybody again, and we glad to be back together this week and going forward. Sorry about the noise in the background. That's my voice coming back to me in an echo. We kind of turn it off.
Eric, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you're in two places in the same household, that will happen. If you have somebody else who is in, so if they mute and
that's exactly what we've just done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope it's better now.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you.
As I sit here today, I'm hoping that we're in this for the long run, because until last week, I kind of thought we'll figure this out and it'll be done with quickly, and we'll be able to move on and get this country back on its feet again, get the country back on rail again. It looks like, without being, I wasn't being naive. I figured, there'd be resistance coming from the other side. And we just have to, hold the fort, stand our ground, and refuse to accept that this is the Cameroon we want. Refuse to accept it. And as a result, do what it takes to convince the handful of people who still have captured the soul of our country. The handful of people, not a whole lot of them. But we've got some work to do, which is one of educating our people. Cameroon has been reduced to a point where everybody feels, or a critical mass of Cameroonians feel that this is as good as it gets for the country, that we cannot afford viable health systems, that we cannot, our education has, hit its best mark, educational systems, that our agriculture, we're not a country that can feed its people, we need help. Rice. So the rice we produce in Semri no longer counts, or in Dop no longer matters. That we cannot, we cannot build roads. I mean, we've been trying to build a road between Douala and Yaoundé for almost 10 years now, and it's not going anywhere. And we're convinced now that we cannot. And that Cotonou, Benin, can build highways in one term of the current president, and build those highways, and that Chad can do the same, and Cameroon cannot. I mean, I can't understand that can we settle for this? And if we cannot, what can we do about it? And that's the fundamental question. That's the fundamental question that I ask myself, and I hope we all ask ourselves, and we say, no, it can be better than that. Cameroon deserves better. Cameroon can do better. I hope we get to that. This is the struggle we're in. Look, from tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 3 days, we're calling for a slowdown, lockdown, ghost town, call it whatever. And the reason is to send a message, to Cameroonians everywhere that this country can be better than it is, that we deserve to be better, that we can develop health systems that work, that women don't have to die in giving child. This is in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, where, the line between life and death was very thin at childbirth. We've overcome that. That should no longer be a preoccupation for the ordinary Cameroonian, but that is the case today. That is the case today. So, my brothers and sisters, we can either sit back and say, well, that's what God wants for us, or we can stand up and say no. And I really hope we stand up and say no, with very little actions by each of us. That's the call that we're making now. Very little action by each of us. We can make a difference. And to not do it is to accept, well, you think that God will wake up and do it for us. And if you don't think so, if you think you have a role to play, believe me, little roles to play, it can all add up. My determination is the Biya regime will not govern this country over the next 7 years or 6 years or 5, will not sit peacefully and run things. No. This one individual who's a Cameroonian and has Cameroon at heart, I am saying no to that. I'm saying no to that. I'll do whatever it takes every day to make life more uncomfortable for them. Because if they were to sit, if they think it's all over, if my young brother Tanganji thinks it's all over, and then he'll sit back and continue to bully everybody and continue to, to build homes and schools and things, buy the cars he wants to buy and so on. Like another one, the guy who has 70 cars in one of his garages. And you wonder why. Ayolo has so many cars. You wonder, I think of every car, every single car, how many coffee farmers it would take, the earnings of a coffee farmer to buy one Ayolo car. Let's start thinking in those terms. One Lamborghini that Ayolo has in Cameroon, where there are no roads to run the Lamborghini. Think about how many coffee farmers is compromised, the lives of how many children have been compromised to get the car in his garage. And he has not one, not 10. As a matter of fact, I mentioned it to Mr. Tchiroma last week. I said, oh, he's got 70 cars. I said, what 70 cars are you talking about? And then somebody brought the real figure, 130. 130. If this is not thievery, if this is not a crime against humanity, I don't know how else we define it. And if we all can define these things, these crimes, for what they really are, I mean, why does a guy need 10 cars? What's he going to do with 10 cars? And ask virtually every minister in government how many cars they have and why they need that many. Why they need that many. One of my last visits home, I went to New Bell, and I saw a 14-year-old who had no clue why he was where he was. This is real. 14-year-old. And when I tried to engage this child in a discussion, what I've eventually gathered was that he had been sent from somewhere in the Northwest to school, to go to the uncle, go to school in Douala. And he got to Douala, and the uncle was not interested in having this child go to school. He told him to go to his garage and be working there. So child starts working in this garage, couldn't go to school, starts working in the garage. And then, of course, like every child, I mean, I remember when I was 14, I entered my father's car. He was tempted to try and drive a car. So he tried to drive and hit that car in the garage. And the uncle took him and gave him to the gendarmes. And that's how this guy ended up in his second year. So he was 12 when he came. In his second year in New Bell prison. Clueless why he was there. He couldn't quite figure it out. He said he thought it was because he was trying to drive the car, but he couldn't understand why he was where he was. And nobody was coming to visit, not even the family. Of course, they were in Bamenda or something. I say this to say that our country is in trouble. There's a dark cloud that has settled on this country that needs to be taken out. And it's all of us working together that will do it. So from tomorrow on, I hope every one of us will call somebody in Cameroon and say, respect the ghost town from tomorrow on. Mimi Mefo and a lot of the bloggers and influencers and social media professionals will be running a day-long program. Please tune in, contribute your thoughts, because they want people to come in, contribute their thoughts, contribute ideas. Let's encourage our country folk to do what they have to do. which is ensure that this government knows, because and I want to explain this and then I'll stop. The international community is looking to see whether the Biya regime is in control. If they are perceived to be in control, then it'll be business as usual. They'll go back into negotiating the kinds of contracts that they've negotiated, half of which are, some of which goes into the pockets of, foreign accounts of the members of government, and then the rest goes to the foreign companies, and Cameroon gets peanuts out of those contracts. And we cannot build our roads because we don't have the money. We cannot build our hospitals because we don't have the money, and so on. So let's, it's important that we come into this process from tomorrow, so that the world will realize that Mr. Biya and his team are not in control. That's what we're trying to stop. The perception of control, not even actual control, the perception of control. Otherwise, this is what's going to happen day after, after Tuesday. If they're perceived to be in control, then Mutaze will be traveling to Washington. Mutaze is the Minister of Finance, to negotiate, and to Cairo. He'll be going there to negotiate a loan, to make up for what was used to pay for the election gadgets. The gadgets that were bought. Gadgets. And the reason they bought gadgets was because it really does not take for a lot of accountability, We buy gadgets. They will say it cost 11 billion. I think that's what it cost, actually, 11 billion francs. Out of that, maybe 8 billion ends up in foreign accounts. And then they buy papers and T-shirts. You don't need a whole lot of money to get that from China. Why they could not produce them in Cameroon? Don't ask us why. No, we're not thinking in terms of production and in terms of creating wealth in our country and creating jobs in our country. No, that's not what we're worried about. We're worried about gadgets because they allow us to take money out of the system. And then we can put half of it in our foreign bank accounts. So if we allow the world community to see that Mr. Biya is fully back in control, then these same guys will negotiate the kinds of contracts they've been negotiating all along. That's why we cannot afford to give the impression, the perception of a government in control. They will not be in control, and let's tell ourselves this. They will not be in control until they are out. They will not be in control until this regime is out. And if we don't do that, that's the least we can do. We've got to show the world that they cannot be allowed to take loans that will increase the debt of Cameroonians. We are already a heavily indebted country. We will not allow them to increase that debt, and especially for non-productive activities like gadgets, for an election that they knew was won 5 years ago. So they didn't even need to win this election. They didn't need those gadgets. So the gadgets was, the whole notion of the gadgets was to give them an excuse to get money out of the treasury, to fuel the bank accounts of Chantal, Biya, Ngongo, Tanganji, Mutaze, and so on. That's the truth. If anybody doubts what I'm saying, contact me and I'll tell you how to find out. So we've got a problem, my brothers and sisters. Let us decide that these people will not sit tight. I say this because, I care for the country. I want my kids to go back to that country, and I want to be able to go back myself and live a quiet life to the end of my days. I would love to be able to do that. But we're not going to be able to do it with the state of things where you don't even have roads to ride on. You don't even have to you're not even sure you'd be able to buy. I'm told that the cost of tomatoes and of onions have risen significantly. Let's keep them rising until the people cannot afford them anymore, and then they take to the streets and they throw the bombs, and then we can get the country back again. There are things that can be done to get Cameroon back on track. Very simple things, basic things. And I know that I'm not saying Mr. Tchiroma will come with a magic solution. I'm not, the guy is a good man. I happen to know that. And he'll try to do the right things, and that's all we're asking for. But he has no magic wand. But he'll do the right thing at least. I guess so. I believe so. He'll do the right thing. And that's all we're trying to create circumstances where this country can get back on track, where the right things can be done, where policies that matter, policies that make sense can be achieved. The policies right now do not make sense, and I can prove that. So anyway, when I start talking about these things, I get carried away. So I shouldn't, Ari should know when to stop me, and Elizabeth, I've been looking at their eyes to see whether they're trying to get me to stop or not. But let me stop. But with this single appeal, one, let us make sure that this government does not sit comfortably today, tomorrow, next year, for the next however long they're going to survive. Do not sit comfortably. Two, let us, again, it's a matter of perception. Let the world know that we do not accept them. They don't have what it takes to get this country back on track. They do not, for a whole variety of reasons. One is they don't accept new ideas. Two, they are afraid of any new ideas and new people. So, for that and a whole variety of reasons, they cannot get Cameroon back on track. So let the world know that. And three, we will not accept any more loans. Please go to the IMF and let it be known. And some of us who can, we will try. But it makes sense if the majority of us, if people start writing to these institutions to say, no, don't give them any more money. We don't want to burden, our children and future and grandchildren are already burdened enough. But let's stop the outflow. So anyway, so I'll stop there. But please, I plead with every one of us: do what you can to make sure this government is not sitting back as of tomorrow comfortably. Let's keep going. Thanks, Ari. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Eric, for that passionate plea you made there to our audience here about really what needs to be done. And Eric, as you were talking, I just was reading through this article that whilst we were all focused on the elections, an association of Treasury employees in Cameroon, Association of Treasury Employees, opened a new 5-star hotel in Yaoundé, built worth 19 billion CFA. 19 billion. Treasury employees put together and built a 5-star hotel, the Concord International Hotel in Yaoundé, inaugurated by the Prime Minister of the Republic. Civil servants built a 5-star hotel, and it is amazing. But we also know that there is a mutual, it's called CREMU. It's tax inspectors. They actually have a microfinance agency, tax inspectors, and that agency is essentially buying property in Yaoundé and Douala. And these are things that are going on. These are civil servants in the country. And we also know that Atanganji, who is the Minister of Territorial Administration, built a church and offered it to the Catholic Church, and had the representative of the president receiving it. I mean, just to say, those are the kind of things that we know. What are we going to do about it? Last week, we asked this question: how can a 93-year-old man be able to browbeat the intelligence of 30 million Cameroonians. And it's just something that I can't go to bed and sleep without thinking about this question, and how sometimes one could feel powerless in doing anything. But I always wake up feeling more empowered that if there's anyone that has to do anything, that has to be me. And I think that if we are asking ourselves that question, is what am I doing? What can I do? Of course, one of us cannot do it, but all of us can do it. It is working together that we're all going to form, like every drop that goes into the ocean is just a drop, but it's all the drops of water that form the force that unleashes the force of the mighty ocean. And I think that that's our strength, whether it's at home or abroad. We have the power to be able to bring this regime down. We just have to sustain it. And that's our appeal to you today.
So, Ari, I have a question for you and Eric. And by the way, 19 billion, for those of us who are in the United States, it's over $33.6 billion. Million dollars. $33 million. It's, unbelievable. So I my question is, yes, we're talking, and with what's happening with MRC, we know that, we're not at the brink of losing democracy, but not allowing another party to meet, to gather in their party house as they're supposed to, tell us how scared and frankly, how that the system is already being broken, right? But I want to ask, over here in the diaspora, Eric, Ari, what is it that practically we could do? Because would you say that we have it's maybe at the level of awareness, at the level of communication, at the level of doing things together as one? How can we do more than what we're doing right now in the diaspora? What is the power in the diaspora? Do we understand? Are we aware of the things? Because we could just come here and listen on Saturdays, and every Saturday we come in, but how significant is that? What more can we do?
Let me try. Ari is smarter in these things. He knows how how folks come together and create action. But it just may be simpler than we think. In all honesty, it's a matter of us deciding that we'd raise our voices and speak up. If we all go home and sit at home and complain at home alone, it will ultimately not matter that much, because nobody hears us and nothing happens. But think about this. If a group of Cameroonians in Washington were to decide that they would craft a note and send it to a congressman, and 10 people in the DC area, 10 in Delaware, 10 in New York, then all of a sudden, somebody realizes that there's a country being talked about in 10 legislatures. Somebody needs to take the lead in organizing those things in each of these communities. Somebody has to take the lead, otherwise nothing happens. But think about the day when, if in another week or in another month, we start hearing these bits of information about a country called Cameroon that nobody knows of in the United States. And the folks we just mentioned the fact that they'll be going out next week, I think, or in the coming weeks, looking for loans. Can you imagine if a group of Cameroonians, and we have groups of Cameroonians everywhere, they start telling the folks in Washington, in the World Bank, in IMF, do not give loans to Cameroon, even if only 10, 20 voices were to say that loudly enough. Believe me, it'll get the attention of the board of directors of those institutions. Once you start getting their attention, it scares the professionals who work in those offices. And they start saying, oh my God, if these guys keep making that noise, the board members will hear. And if they hear it, it might have an impact on the project web and so on. It's a chain of activities. Just from a small group, targeting one, or even, hey, Trump will be happy not to cut off whatever from the UN, but we don't want him to do that. But we want the UN to do the right thing. The UN did not do the right thing by Cameroon when it came to these elections. Did any Cameroonian stand up to be Cameroonian? Did anybody complain? No. But the UN did not do the right thing. They actually went and then seemed to endorse what happened. The United Nations. And what does it take? Just a group of Cameroonians could have made the difference. They didn't. A handful of Cameroonians in New York could have made all the difference. So I think, it's not, doesn't take for a lot of us to bring about change. But for it to happen, a handful of us have to stand up to be counted. And that's not the case. That's not happening. So I'm really, my hope is that we will recognize the fact that each of us counts, and that if we come together, I can see there are 40-something of us here. The 40-something of us can make a difference. We can, and we should. Otherwise, the same mess will continue and nothing will happen. No change will come about. So I rest my case there. I think we can make a difference. Each one of us can make a small difference. Each one of us. And that's all I'm saying. Anyway. Okay, sir.
Eric, I'll follow you and say the same thing that you have just said. I believe it takes very little to beat the BR regime. We saw that with the elections.
Yeah.
With $25,000, we send via packing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what we can do? I said this last week with $150,000. When we talk about the Villemot that's taking place in Cameroon, it's an investment that we have made for it to be successful. And we have to continue making such investments. So to the people in the diaspora, I know that we all wanted to see a quick fix. That's what we all were betting on. And we thought that we were going to make this happen. But it's going to take a little bit more. And all that I'm asking the people in the diaspora is three things. One, stay committed. Do not give up. Do not move on to the next thing. Do not move on to the December celebrations. Do not move on to planning next year. Stay committed to this. So meaning keep coming back to these conversations every Saturday. One, committed. Two, make a little sacrifice. For us to win, we need to have some discomfort. That discomfort means we need to commit, make a little sacrifice in terms of financial resources. Let's build a war chest if we have to win. Invest in this process. And three, get involved. Get involved, like what Eric has said. These are just three things that we can do. Get involved in the process. Do something. All the information that we keep sharing in the groups. Be part of that process of amplifying our voices, speaking to people that will listen to you. Use your sphere of influence to bear on the people that you can influence and help keep the attention on Cameroon. If we move on, it would be business as usual. But I tell you that, and I said this to our team yesterday, the people in Cameroon are not superhuman beings. They're ordinary human beings like you and I. I don't care whether they're into what satanism and all of that. I don't care. But they are human beings. They have a lifetime. They have blood running through their veins. They fear, like all of us. They fear what they don't know. They fear what is coming. They want to be secured in their position. So if we sustain the pressure on them, I bet you they would begin to crumble one after another. They would start getting on planes and fleeing the country. And that's how we win this. It's not bullets, it's not, you just sustain the pressure and make life so uncomfortable and unbearable that these people would have to be, we would run them out of town. This is the only thing that has worked. So please do not lose faith. Do not hope that somebody else will do it. Never before have we had an opportunity where we've created an all-encompassing platform like this Project C that has brought us together in ways, from our different corners, our different expressions, our different aspirations, but we're brought together on this platform. Let's own it. Let each one of you be owners of this platform. Come up with big, bold ideas and let's run with it. That's how we're going to drive this, to use the cliche, chase these bastards out of town. That's what we need to do. And again, Eli, that will be my response to everyone in the diaspora. This is not Ari's fight or Eric's fight. This is our fight. And some people, yes, have to stick their necks and make the sacrifices. It's not that we're better than anybody else. It's just that we believe that this has to be done, and this has to be done now, not tomorrow.
Yeah,
No, wait, no. Okay, I'm sorry. I have kids all around me. This is real life. But I want to say thank you so much for that response. And I see I have Professor Terry Atanga, who is on. He has his hand up, and I think several people had their hands up. Please keep your hand up because we want to get to you. I was reminded of a story. And many of you may have heard this story. I'm just thinking, this could be where we are. The guy who I think he was walking or hiking and then fell off a cliff, I think off a branch, and he thought he was going to die. All throughout, he was praying to God at night, please help me, I'm going to die. And Spirit just told him, jump, 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 like jump down. And he would not do it. And in the morning, he saw that it was inches away from the ground. And I feel like that's what it is right now in Cameroon. We've been beaten so much that we think it's so far. And when I listen to you and Eric, it's like, it's so far, but it's going to take so little. And the so little is going to take, it's simply because we're just dawning to the fact that, no, this is our country. You cannot do that. And that simple step and acknowledgement of this is our country, you cannot do that, can change things. As opposed to the imagination, as the guy was so scared that when Spirit kept telling him, just jump, he was so scared because he imagined that maybe he was off a cliff, and if he jumped, he's going to slip down a valley or something. And so I wonder how big this imaginary valley it is for us. And I think just listening to you guys is, we need to just remember that we're closer, we're inches away from the ground. Maybe we just have to step down, let the branch go and just step down. And I know it sounds so simplistic, but I just keep remembering it is this easy. If we're willing to do the work, it is easy. Yeah. Okay, do we want to take a question? I see Professor Atanga is on.
Yes, I'll go. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you all for creating this forum. Dear Eric, thank you. It's good to see you. And your presence here means a lot. What you said, dear Eric, I think it would be very effective. And I think Ari also supported what you said. If you look on the chat, my question actually was asked by, I think, 2 other people. So I've asked that question, and on similar lines, Akum asked the same question, and Shira. My suggestion is this. What you said about most people want to do something, but they don't know what to do. So first question, maybe provide a template that they can use in writing to your Congress people, your senators, and so forth. Can we provide a template? And then second, people might not even know who to contact. But I'm sure that with your experience already in politics and everything, you can guide us to tell us that if you're writing to the United Nations, this is who to write to, or these are the divisions or the departments to address. I hope I'm making a point.
Yes,
Hello?
yes, absolutely. Yes. We have shared some of those, but sometimes that it gets lost in the many messages that go around. I recall us sharing the list of agencies that we encourage people to write to. So yes, we should be doing that. That's a good point. Maybe revisiting that every week, because then we want the sustained pressure. One of the things that we have not been able to measure, and we have to think about that as a team, is the response that people are, whether people are actually doing it. In some cases, we always hear secondhand that, okay, this letters, or we see the attention of the media changing, the narrative from the media changing, or you see the response from political figures as a result of some of the work that's done, or you hear from the Vatican that, that letters have gone out. So those things have been happening, but we just need to keep the gas on. And so that's a good point. I think we internally would have a team, and we'll try to put out this information from time to time. We have some of those templates, and we'll be sharing them. We just ask people to use them. And point well taken. We will keep that going. Yeah.
Annette? If Annette is next, if you're ready, Annette.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have, I don't know if it's a question, but it's something that I have pondered upon. What is it? I hear everybody says, "Oh, Cameroonians, we are very intelligent. We are one of the most educated in Africa." What is it that Burkina Faso has that we don't have? In terms of the fact, what is it that Mali has that we do not have? Because my worry since we started on this journey is that what I have noticed, if the people back home do not get to a desperate situation, do not stand up, then the world takes those letters and they read it and they say, yes, we have a problem, but it is not urgent. I heard somewhere the other day that either the UN or somebody started with sanctions against Tanzania. But we have had the same problem or a similar problem. What is it that we need to do? What is it that we can do? What is it that MRC does not see that they can join with FNNC and FF? Oh, sorry, I keep mixing up the words, but you know who I'm talking about with the president's party. What is it that they don't see that they can stand up together? And if we put that kind of pressure, then the world will talk about it. And when the world talks about it, then nobody can look away from it. Because I have been sending letters. I have sent letters. I have sent it here in Norway. I have sent it everywhere that I've been able to. But I have not heard the kind of response that I would like to see. I would rest.
Annette, I would say every letter that you have sent has made a difference. Yes, it has not toppled the regime. It has not maybe led to sanctions. But can you imagine if there were, 4 million Cameroonians in the diaspora. Let's say there were 4,000 Annettes doing that. The difference that there will be certainly a difference being made. And to your question with reference to the Burkina Fasos and Malis and of the world, I would also say that they probably would be envying Cameroon in the sense that, Cameroon has all this wealth, and they would be thinking, I wish we had all that wealth and what we would do with it, right? In the context of Cameroon, I need for us to look at history and learn from it. Every time the Biya regime has had its back to the wall, it has embarked on a divisive campaign that has always succeeded in distracting us from the goal that we have. We have to rise above the mundane divisions that we have created amongst ourselves and really focus on the target. We have one target, and that's it. It doesn't matter who gets into Congress, into the National Assembly. It doesn't matter whose brother is appointed to what position. It doesn't matter what political party is invited to be part of government. All of those things are what have divided us. It boils down, Annette, to our greed. It's greed. We have become a country where people sacrifice their moral values in exchange of their daily bread. And that has become so woven into the fabric of who we are as a country that at the end of the day, when country and interests are put side by side, we, the Cameroonian people, have always bowed in terms of interest. And I'll use a very simple example. It takes a decision to sacrifice something to do what we are doing now. What we are sacrificing is enormous, right? You are making the sacrifice that I will put my name out, not because I'm not worried about the risk that I face, but because the need for action is largely outweighs the personal risk that I face. That I'm just one person, but what I do provides opportunities for 30 million people. And for those people, it's more important for us to have the greatest happiness for the greatest number than for one of us to be happy to the exclusion of all others. That is the most difficult piece in the conversation that we're having. That if we can, for once, in the next 6 months, be able to keep this coalition together, because they will come to divide us. They will call some people Northerners. I got a message where somebody would, people on the ground, instead of focusing on the fight, are saying, these Muslim people will leave you. And I'm like, I'm not paying attention to that. This is not about a Muslim. This is not about Christians. This is not about where the fight or who is leading this fight. This is about you. This is about each one of us. And if you're waiting that Superman is going to come from the north to make this happen, no, it has to be you. It has to be each one of us. We have to make those sacrifices. And people who have lost their lives it's not just about them. Their families are going to stay back and suffer, but their lives didn't go in vain because it was all intended for us to have a better Cameroon. And so, it comes down to this philosophical conversation. What is it that we as Cameroonians are prepared to sacrifice as individuals so that we can get prosperity for everyone? I hope that I don't know whether that makes you feel better, but that's the reality of the conversation that we should be having. Again, I keep, when each time I see people, I look in the forum, I see people talking about, everybody has a perspective, but almost always sounding as like somebody else should do it. We should all be doing it. We should all be embracing it. We should all be doing the little that we can. And so please do not think that your efforts are not making a difference. They are.
I just want to add this, Ari, that, and it's worth thinking about. If we do nothing, and in the next few weeks and the next few months, and maybe the next year, things remain pretty much as they are, think about this. What this regime would have done is figured out how to survive. Right now, they're at the weakest. Right now, where we sit and stand, they're the weakest. Mr. Chantal, you might have heard, she left the country, flew out the other day. Maybe she's back in Cameroon. Frank, the son of the president, flew out of the country because he was, he didn't quite see the future with the same level of certainty that he saw just a couple of weeks ago. So there's a general sense of uncertainty. And so if they survived this period, they would have figured out how to survive. And then you think it is in 7 years that they will then figure out, oh, well, we've figured out how to fail, let's leave. They'll not leave in 7. They'll not leave in 14. And Cameroon will be the country that we've come to know it to be in the last 2-3 decades. So what we want to do now is make sure this doesn't go beyond now. Please think about it. If they survive now, they would have figured out how to survive. And we've got to stop them. It's in the interest of everybody. It's in the interest of the children. Look at the kinds of ridiculous things happening. Maurice Kamto wants to have a party in his party house. And they come and they stop him. Just because they don't want Maurice Kamto to emerge as a political actor, because they're afraid of that one man, they'll disrupt the law. They'll break the law. They'll break the law to stop one man. And if we let it happen with Maurice Kamto, as we are letting it happen with Tchiroma, you win an election and you become a fugitive in your own country, we're letting it happen. Mr. Tchiroma he's instead of being concerned about how do I organize my victory to run the country, even if you don't want him to run the country, why should his primary concern be whether he lives or dies? Why should that be his primary concern? The only thing he's thinking about now is his security and safety. Why should that be the case? You win an election and you have to be running around the world trying to figure out how to survive. There's something wrong with us as a nation if we let it happen. It is just wrong, and somebody should be telling all of those fellows in Yaoundé that it is wrong. You're doing wrong by Maurice Kamto. You're doing wrong by Issa Tchiroma. And by doing wrong by these two people, you're doing wrong to every Cameroonian. They should know that. And we should insist on it. Every one of us should. Every one of us has a role to play, and we must. Because if we let these people get away with it now, they will get away with it forever. And our country will never be the country we all seem to want it to be. So let's, I don't want to make this thing any more complicated than it is, because I don't think it is. It's simple. But each of us has to go back home and say, sit back home and say, but what can I do differently? You really have to ask yourself that question. I ask myself that question every day. What can I do differently? What have I done that's good enough? And what can I do that's even better? We're going to be having, come tomorrow, be a part of the check on Mimi Mefo, on Bernard Ngalim or Hansen or all of these guys, Paul Chuta, you name it, check on them. They'll be on tomorrow, all day tomorrow. And then after that, Monday, please let each one of us stop one Cameroonian from waking up in the morning and going to work or going to the market, or God knows where else people go to every day of their lives, Let's make a difference tomorrow, Monday, Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday. Let's each contribute to making a difference. It's important that we do that, so that this regime does not sit comfortably, so that they know that we are determined to go to the very edge and have them fall over if they have to, but we'll push them to that edge. Let's do it. Let's do it as of tomorrow. That's the little contribution. Call somebody at home and say, don't go, don't wake up. And call two people, and I love this marketing thing that allows you to call 5 and 5 call 5, and it just adds up. Let's do that. Sorry, I didn't want to take the floor again, at least not at this point, but please, it's over to you, Elizabeth.
Okay, there was a question, Eric. I think it was from Val Aten, who was saying that the similar situation between Tanzania and Cameroon, and Larry Madowa of CNN did a documentary on Tanzania, and why not Cameroon? How could we get that?
Well, I happen to be in Atlanta right now. Oh, did I have to disclose my whereabouts? Anyway, I'm in Atlanta right now. I think I'll go over to CNN on Monday or something, and check the office I used to work in and see if somebody there can do a story for us. But yeah, each of us can do something, some little thing, and I'll definitely try to see if I can figure out where that young man Madawo is. See if he or somebody else can do something. Yeah, we'll try that. Yeah, but you're right. Each of us should stand up and do something, some little thing. So if anybody wants to march with me to CNN on Monday, we'll go together and knock on the doors and say, hey, you're not saying anything about Cameroon. Why? Little things can add up. Very little things can add up, and we can add them up.
Okay, Ari, I don't know if you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
It takes sustained pressure.
Yes.
It takes an investment as well.
Yeah.
For there's so many things that we can do with a little bit of resources.
And
I'm asking for people to consider that.
Right.
A letter to Barrow from a number of us, a letter to Barrow, the president of Gambia, to say thank you for taking this, would not only show a sense of gratitude, but expose those people. In that letter, we should say thank you for taking one of our own leaders, and then say, but that's what happens in a dictatorship that will not even recognize its own sons and stuff like that. So in one letter, we can expose the system, attract international attention, and show a sense of gratitude. I hope some folks in the group here would want to come together and write that letter to Barrow. And he'll be very happy.
Yes. A really powerful idea. And I also just wanted to add that we're actually right now streaming in about almost 700 in all the different various platforms, as we are on Twitter, on Mimi's Facebook, and also on YouTube. And that, I think, is a kind of collaboration, because I know somebody said, people are needing directions. And I also want to call people out a step and initiation. You might have a great idea and you might shift it, and that might be part of what, another part of Project C. And we can talk about it and you can lead that. I was talking to someone who connected me with another person, and they really talked about this pigeon Zoom, which we think is powerful, because that will reach, your average, they were talking to average mother in the village, And, even in Douala, that's one thing that, educated or not, I think Anglophones and Francophones have in common. And so having a Zoom that is that simple is impactful. And so that is something we're looking into, because we're actually planning to start, not even considering, because it's that great of an idea. There was another idea about, and I'm going to be calling some people today, women for Project C, mothers for Project C, and just going out to demand for sons and children to be released from jail. It's also very impactful. So I was giving the example of how we're on all these different platforms. It's simply because we are working together. And I've always been saying that some people have to speak because we all can't speak at the same time, but we all can use our voice, our actions in so many different ways. And that is the challenge that we have right now. As I've been listening to Eric and Are, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And bottom line, and not underestimating your action of what can be done.
So I think at this point, we'll talk about the circle of five, and then we can talk about the ghost towns and the actions that we're going to take, because people want to see action.
Right.
So I'm asking everyone who is in the diaspora to create a list of 5 people. 5 people that becomes your circle of influence, your Project C cycle of 5 people. 5 people that you can rely on, that can be part of this movement. 5, it's in just one hand. You should be able to count these 5 people. But 5 people that you can really rely on, and that are back home. 5 people that you can sponsor in the next 3 days to stay home, that you can provide for their daily bread. You can send them money now for them to be able to stay home in the next 5 days. 5 people that maybe have Bensikins, that you can provide the alternative for their income, which in many cases is not too much for a day. 5 people that you can sustain, that you can ask to help us keep make this ghost town successful. 5 people here in the diaspora that can donate to sustain the movement. So I'm just asking 5 people of each one of us. If 5 of us did this, we can be able to engage nearly just today. But those of us that are here, if we multiply ourselves by 5, we can engage 250 people. But what if we challenge those 250 people to also build their circle of 5? That in itself takes us to be able to engage 1,250 people. It has been said repeatedly, the science, the study, that it would take 3.5% of mobilization on the ground of Cameroonians to bring down the regime. If we can have 1.5 million Cameroonians mobilized in one day to take action, I think that we can chase the regime out of town. But if we build this network, this is the same network that we're going to use to choke Yaoundé, essentially, or to lead a million-man march on Yaoundé, because that's what we have to do. And we have to build this up to that. So please, I'm just asking for you to, if there is any homework that we leave here today, that is the homework, right? And so we want to see the platforms growing. You introducing 5 people, and let's get to that third and fourth Project C platform. Let's keep the mobilization going. Let's put it in the hands of every one of us to keep this cycle growing at home as well as abroad. I think that that's one takeaway that we should all have.
Absolutely. And Eric, I'm sure you've already seen this, but just so you know that there could be a movement brewing with you going to CNN. Professor Terry said we should post it on the general forum and find out who else is interested in joining you on the trip to CNN. So Judith hand is up. Ari, I think we'll go to Judith and then continue. Hey, Jude.
Yeah, hi, greetings. I don't know if you can see me or you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so greetings everybody. Et je vois que quelqu'un demande s'il n'y a pas français aujourd'hui, donc je vais essayer un peu. Je ne sais pas si Herman est ici aussi pour parler en français. Et Léopold, vous êtes tous là. So I'm going to try to speak in French and English if I can. So, but
I'm always here.
Ok, voilà, Herman, tu es là. Donc, tu vas parler. Je vais parler en anglais. So I'll speak in English and let Herman do the French bit. So I just wanted to really piggyback on what Ari was saying and just to welcome everybody again on board. Yes, the next 3 days. I think Eric also touched on this. The next 3 days are very, very crucial. We had elections. The wrong person is in power, but what can we do? So the next 3 days really sets the pace for what's going to happen. And it is imperative that we make sure that the next 3 days are successful. And what's going to happen? The ghost towns are earmarked for tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, but we start tomorrow online. Yes, it's ghost town, but everybody, you and everybody else you know should be online tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be a full day online participation by the Cameroonian public at home and abroad. And what is the point? The point is to show that while the government is carrying on with a sham regional elections, we will be online making our voices heard. It's a way of civil disobedience. It's a way of delegitimizing the regional elections that will be going on tomorrow. So the event starts from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Cameroon time. So from 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, there will be live streaming on the various social media platforms, Mimi Mefo, Zimato, all of them, all those people will be online. There will be a program run by a core team. You will have moderators, you will have speakers, you will have panelists, you have presentations, debates, everything about what is going on in Cameroon, about the elections, about the ghost towns, about economic sanctions, about how you can engage international community. So there will be a full day of activity online. And the plea is that you join, you ask somebody to join. That's the least we can do. What Ari just said, in political science, 3.5% of the population in active, peaceful civil disobedience can bring down the government. So imagine if we start tomorrow with at least 4 million people online. That's already a start, just online, and that will encourage other people to do more. So the plea is that we need to make it work. The international community will be watching. They need to see that the government is not in control and we, the people, are in control. Let's not even put names, but we, the people, will be in control. We will be out massively tomorrow online, which will then be followed by Ghost Town on Monday and Tuesday. So please make sure that you reach out to everybody you know. If they are home tomorrow, they should be online. There will be lots of programs, lots of speakers, lots of interesting discussions going on about everything in Cameroon. We need to make sure that those regional elections are delegitimized by us online tomorrow. So I just needed to say that and make sure that we take on the task of making sure that 3.5% of our 30 million is about 1 million people. We need to have more than 1 million people online tomorrow. And we can only do that by each one of us here reaching out to people. So we need to beat that 3.5% of 30 million tomorrow online, and that should carry on into the ghost towns for Monday and Tuesday. I just want to reiterate that. So please look out for the announcements for the program. The program is being finalized as we speak, of the speakers and what will happen tomorrow, but just keep an eye out on the various social media platforms. I'm sure Mimi will add more to that, but yes, there will be a lot happening tomorrow. In the diaspora, what can we do going forward? Please make your voices heard. Those on ground zero cannot make their voices heard, and we know why. If you all remember what happened when the internet was shut down in Cameroon, it's the diaspora that a lot of the work because people back home could not speak. Let's do the same now. We can speak for those back home. Let's flood social media. Let's contact journalists. Let's pressure the governments where we are. Like Eric was saying earlier, we can do a lot. Please don't let it that diaspora is speaking and not listening to ground zero. We have work we can do in the diaspora that will bring change. We need the international community to know that we do not support the regime, but we can only do that by making our voices heard where we are. So please take action, make your voices heard, be on social media, and speak out for the people back home who cannot speak. Thank you.
And
thank you very
thank
much.
you, Jude.
Go ahead.
Okay. And Herman. Okay.
Herman, let's bring in Herman. Yeah.
Yes.
Merci beaucoup Judith, merci Aré, merci. Nous sommes vraiment honorés d'avoir les Camerounais, tous les francophones online aujourd'hui, comme d'habitude. Ce que Aré essayait de dire, je sais que beaucoup ont compris ce que Judith essayait de dire, c'est que nous avons une urgence sous la main. On le dit, on le réitérait, on va le réitérer chaque fois. On a une urgence sous la main et on ne peut pas continuer de regarder l'urgence de façon passive. Les élections de demain au Cameroun sont illégitimes. Je recommence, les élections de demain au Cameroun sont illégitimes et tous les Camerounais doivent et peuvent participer à montrer l'illégitimité de cette élection. S'il vous plaît, il ne faut plus qu'un seul Camerounais soit en retrait à observer ce qui se passe. Et ce message ne s'adresse pas seulement à tous ceux qui se réclament d'un parti politique, il s'adresse à tous ceux qui savent que la situation au Cameroun est intenable. On a beaucoup de personnes qui ont été tuées. Excusez que je revienne dessus, c'est quelque chose qui nous fait mal, c'est quelque chose qui nous blesse. On a plus de 50 personnes qui ont été tuées. On a énormément de sang qui a été versé. Mais il y a des personnes qui sont en train de tout faire pour qu'on passe au-dessus de tous ces corps. On ne peut pas. Le RDPC a besoin de comprendre que même lui a besoin de s'arrêter pour dire qu'on ne peut pas passer au-dessus de toutes ces personnes qui ont été tuées. Le 12 octobre, les Camerounais ont fait un choix très, très massif et on ne peut pas passer au-dessus de leur volonté comme s'ils n'avaient pas exprimé leur volonté. C'est le deuxième point. S'il vous plaît, il faut que toutes les personnes, même au gouvernement, comprennent qu'on a obligation de ne pas passer au-dessus de cela. Le troisième point, c'est que s'il continue, on aura au moins 60 à 70% de Camerounais qui seront frustrés, qui ne pourront pas continuer à avancer comme ils auraient avancé si leur choix avait été pris en compte. C'est quelque chose de structurellement logique. Donc, à cause de cela, demain, on veut que tous les Camerounais, le maximum, s'il te plaît, si tu écoutes ce message, ne le garde pas pour toi. Partage avec au moins 5 personnes. Et tu sais que tu peux partager avec 50 personnes. Quand on dit 5, c'est vraiment le minimum des minima. Mais tu peux aider 50 personnes à rejoindre le mouvement demain. À partir de 10h jusqu'à 17h, en streaming sur presque toutes les plateformes, c'est partagé. On va discuter de tout ce qui concerne la situation au Cameroun. On est très content pour ceux qui se mobilisent déjà sur toutes les plateformes qui seront publiées. Il est très important que tu comprennes que ton addition va faire la différence. Jusque dans les zones rurales, tu es Camerounais, tu es de la diaspora, tu as peut-être tes activités, mais tu es une partie de l'État du Cameroun. De 10h à 19h, il est important qu'on envoie un message à ceux qui essayent de passer au-dessus du sang des Camerounais pour leur dire que les Camerounais n'ont pas tourné la page et ils ne sont pas prêts de tourner la page et ils ne vont pas tourner la page. Quel que soit ce qui est engagé, quel que soit ce qui est essayé, quel que soit ce qui est utilisé, pour les détourner de cet objectif-là, ils ne peuvent pas tourner la page. Donc, rejoins, s'il te plaît, ce mouvement qui se veut déterminé, qui se veut pacifiste, mais extrêmement déterminé, à faire comprendre que la situation au Cameroun est observée à l'étranger. Et ce sera une bonne opportunité de montrer à l'étranger que le Cameroun suffoque, que les Camerounais suffoquent, qu'il y a un genou sur le cou des Camerounais et qu'ils ne respirent plus. L'urgence est de montrer que chaque Camerounais prend part active à l'expression de ce qu'on ne peut pas accepter l'élection de demain, pas plus qu'on ne pourra accepter une autre élection. Qu'on le veuille ou non, c'est la vérité. S'il te plaît, participe. S'il te plaît, partage. S'il te plaît, sens-toi impliqué. S'il te plaît, sens-toi concerné. Parce que le programme demain sera dense. Il s'agit d'au moins 9 heures de streaming non-stop.
Est-ce que Chrétien Tabessing peut ajouter un petit mot là?
Merci.
Oui, merci. Merci, Herman. Chrétien, j'espère que tu es là. Hein? Tu te caches là pour rien. On va te trouver. On ne t'entend pas, monsieur. Ou bien c'est moi qui l'entends. Non, voilà. Can anybody hear him? I can hear Chrétien. On ne t'entend pas. Harry, can you hear him?
No.
Chrétien, on ne t'entend pas.
Allô?
OK.
Ah, bon, voilà.
Allô?
Oui, on t'entend maintenant.
Ah, ok. Bonsoir à tous. Bonsoir à tous. Je suis très heureux d'être présent. Comme les autres rencontres les samedis, assez souvent, je suis dans l'émission. J'écoute avec beaucoup d'attention tout ce qui se dit. Alors, Eric, tu m'as un peu interpellé assez rapidement, mais bon, je vais un peu récapituler. Je pense que, Eric, tu l'as très bien dit, c'est que la question aujourd'hui, c'est de savoir comment faire comprendre à la communauté internationale que ce régime est illégitime et qu'il n'est pas du tout accepté par la quasi-majorité des Camerounais. Il va falloir le leur faire comprendre. Je dirais même comment faire, vous allez m'excuser le terme, comment faire pour que les Camerounais fassent à tout ce qui leur est arrivé, comment faire pour rendre ce pays ingouvernable pacifiquement. Je dis bien ingouvernable pacifiquement, c'est-à-dire ingouvernable à travers nos actions, les actions que nous allons mener au niveau national et international. Je suis là en train de faire à peu près la synthèse de tout ce qui a été dit. Je pense que plusieurs options ont été envisagées tout à l'heure. La diaspora, c'est-à-dire dans chaque pays, un mémorandum est écrit et présenté à la représentation nationale, c'est-à-dire à l'Assemblée, au Sénat, à la Chambre des représentants, des lords, bref, dans toutes les organisations, je veux dire, qui gèrent l'ensemble de ces pays et voir au-delà les régions, c'est-à-dire l'Union européenne, par exemple. Il va falloir peut-être faire un mémorandum pour expliquer pourquoi. Il faut prendre un peu la communauté internationale, je dirais, à les mettre au pied du mur, parce que on ne peut pas avoir demandé au monde entier, et particulièrement à plusieurs pays en Afrique, de pratiquer la démocratie et la dénier, tel que cela a été fait au Cameroun. Il va falloir peut-être interroger la communauté internationale sur cette question. Le peuple camerounais a joué le jeu de la démocratie. Le peuple camerounais joue le jeu de la démocratie depuis plusieurs décennies. Et à chaque fois, c'est le même scénario. Est-ce que la communauté internationale attend que ce peuple, à force d'être trahi, puisse passer à une autre forme d'expression, à une autre forme d'expression que l'on voit dans d'autres pays? Nous disons, nous ne le souhaitons pas dans notre pays parce que ce n'est pas dans notre nature. Mais nous avons l'impression que la communauté internationale, face à son mutisme, risque de pousser les Camerounais à utiliser une autre forme d'expression. Parce que la communauté internationale qui finance, entre guillemets, la démocratie dans les pays, ne peut pas non plus dénier la pratique de la démocratie, ne peut pas refuser à un peuple qui a joué le jeu de la démocratie de jouir effectivement de cette démocratie. Donc, mettons déjà en œuvre les solutions qui ont été préconisées tout à l'heure par Eric, c'est-à-dire dans tous les pays du monde, la diaspora plus particulièrement, initier des mémorandums qui expliquent, qui posent bien les problèmes et qui vont être pratiquement, je dirais, proposés à tous ces pays, à toutes ces représentants de la société dans ces différents pays-là, pour que, effectivement, ce pays, qu'on puisse indexer ce pays, et c'est à partir de là peut-être que ce régime va comprendre qu'il n'est pas du tout accepté, ni par la communauté internationale, et encore moins par le peuple camerounais. Moi, je suis au Cameroun, je peux vous assurer que on le voit dans leur attitude. Pour revenir à l'élection de demain, et je dirais le mot d'ordre demandé par le président élu, vous devez savoir que l'élection régionale est une élection indirecte, c'est-à-dire que ce sont les conseillers municipaux qui élisent les conseillers régionaux. Les conseillers municipaux. Alors, dans cet ordre d'idées, il va falloir bien cibler les messages. La question est de savoir, est-ce que les conseillers municipaux du RDPC, qui sont la quasi-majorité sur le territoire national, peuvent aujourd'hui, je dirais, respecter le mot d'ordre de boycott? C'est une question que je pose. Au vu de la situation. Face à cela, il me semble que nous pourrions peut-être agir autrement. Je vais vous donner une petite information. J'ai déjeuné à ma table chez moi l'autre jour avec un membre comment ils appellent ça, ils appellent ça comment, du RDPC, là, comment ils appellent ça, les membres de leur comité de direction, je ne sais plus comment ils appellent ça.
Comité central.
Au comité central, voilà, leur truc. Vraiment, je vais te dire que j'ai écouté sans écouter parce que ça ne m'intéressait pas beaucoup. Hein? Donc, ils disaient, et sans vergogne, que leur objectif, c'est de faire voter à 100% dans tous les arrondissements. C'est-à-dire que même ceux qui ne vont pas se présenter, qu'on vote pour eux. Parce que ils veulent apporter la preuve auprès de la population qu'ils ont encore un minimum de légitimité. C'est-à-dire, dès lors que les conseillers municipaux vont voter à 100% pour les conseillers régionaux qu'ils veulent mettre en place, ce sera une preuve pour eux qu'ils sont effectivement légitimes et qu'ils sont acceptés. Donc, vous voyez à peu près leur état d'esprit en ce moment, c'est que non seulement ils se sentent illégitimes, mais ils sont en train de faire des pieds et des mains pour pouvoir rendre cette élection légitime. Mais qu'avons-nous comme moyen pour pouvoir y agir dans la mesure où ce sont les conseillers régionaux et les municipaux, pardon, qui vont voter pour les conseillers régionaux? Moi, je pense que le mot d'ordre de Gostan me paraît être plus approprié et qu'il va falloir le répéter et le rendre complètement, je dirais, à la limite, que ce soit fasse partie intégrante de notre programme, c'est-à-dire régulièrement que les Camerounais sachent que chaque mois, chaque semaine, il doit y avoir un jour de Gostan et qu'il n'y ait pas de travail tel que c'est pratiqué dans le nord-ouest et le sud-ouest. Il va falloir appliquer cela dans la partie francophone.
Une petite idée, Chrétien, que quelqu'un vient d'exprimer, c'est qu'on essaye de voir dans quelle mesure nous pouvons faire en sorte, n'est-ce pas, qu'il y ait quelqu'un qui adopte un Ben Sekine par jour.
Oui.
Que chaque jour, qu'on ait la possibilité d'annoncer, enfin, à partir de demain, avec cette émission qu'on va faire demain, mais qu'on peut continuer, c'est que chacun puisse adopter un Ben Sekine par jour ou une Bayam Selam par jour. C'est $1 peut-être. $1. $1, c'est 250 francs ou 500 francs.
500 francs.
Oui,
c'est ça.
Est-ce qu'on peut l'annoncer? Enfin, je vais demander à notre chef, Aré et Elisabeth, est-ce qu'ils peuvent organiser cela pour que, à partir de demain, qu'on puisse annoncer chaque jour, comme Mimi Mefo et les autres peuvent annoncer ça dans leurs émissions, que chaque jour qu'on annonce, on sélectionne peut-être 10 Ben Sekine ou 10 Bayam Selam à qui on remet 1000 francs, mais que les Camerounais qui sont aux États-Unis, en Europe et tout ça puissent donner $1 par jour, qui va aller donc à ces gens-là, ces Ben Sekine. Est-ce que ça peut s'organiser? C'est une question que je pose.
Ça peut s'organiser.
OK, si ça peut s'organiser. I don't know whether you heard me, Elizabeth, and Herman, and the others, if we can organize ourselves to ensure that every day, we have a few dollars collected to be given to these Ben Sekiners and the market women.
Je vais même rajouter.
Oui.
Je vais rajouter sur les Ben Skinner. Je vais rajouter, si on peut faire ça pour les Ben Skinner, et vous avez il y a une catégorie, les call-boxeurs, que les gens ne voient pas, mais qui sont éparpillés. Il y a plus de 2 millions de call-boxeurs au Cameroun. Plus de 2 millions. C'est énorme. Ceux qui sont dans la rue, qui vendent le crédit de communication, toutes ces personnes-là, des petits jeunes qui sont pas, ils sont moins nantis, mais vous avez parmi les call-boxers des gars qui ont la licence, qui vendent du crédit de communication dans les rues. Ils sont très nombreux et ils peuvent nous être d'une très grande utilité dans les messages à distiller.
I think that's a great idea. And this is, again, it ties back to the circle of five, that we can have everybody sponsor a circle of 5 people, right? Where and I'm asking, there's 40 people online here and maybe other people on the various platforms. If you give a thumbs up, this is the people's
almost 800, Ari. So
almost 800
let's just
people.
say we're speaking to 1,000, and it's going to increase as the day goes on.
Yes, give
That's
us a
who we're
thumbs
speaking.
up. Tomorrow, this message is going to go across the country. We have to sustain this movement.
Yes.
That's what I ask, that we all make a little sacrifice. We sustain this movement. If we can do this every weekend, Monday and
Because,
Tuesday.
Ari, meanwhile, we cannot have a Villemore like in Cameroon. We can have our own Villemore in America, and that's the Villemore that we can have. It's the
We're
one
making
day
a
where
little
we're sustaining.
sacrifice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we raise a war chest where every Monday and Tuesday we are supporting the people in Cameroon to stay at home. All of this is going to lead to the regime feeling the financial squeeze. That's how we suffocate Yaoundé. And then other actions can come after that. But if we sustain the pressure of Monday and Tuesday, every day, every week, I mean, it's already happening. And I say to people who say that, oh, they've been doing that in Anglophone Cameroon and it's not made it. It has made a difference. It has made significant difference. This is why the government is in the financial squeeze in which it is in now, where they may not be able to pay salaries in December. So we have to sustain it. We're beginning with this weekend. The success of this weekend will determine us going forward. But I could see from the thumbs up that people are prepared for us to do this. Let us do this. We can do this, people. It's a little sacrifice that we make. $10 a week, $20, $25 a week. Let's do this for the next 6 months. See how much difference that would make. That's what we're asking for. It's the little things that we all will sacrifice. So I'm all for it, because this peaceful method is how we're going to bring down the regime. Let no daylight come between us. Let's not be divided. Let's just keep going and supporting people and children that we will never meet, will never shake their hands, will never know their names. But it's for them that we're in this struggle. So let's do it.
I know this sounds so lofty, but I just feel that, I believe they say, out of every bad thing, or that's, if it's meant for, the bad of other people, God would use it for good. And so maybe it is so that, most of us in the diaspora can ask, what is my purpose? As people are, what am I really meant to be doing besides, the comfort that we have? And maybe as we're so focused on things that are wrong, it is so that we might see our humanity in what we can come together and do. I know I've brought this several times, maybe not in this, but some meetings we've had, is I am what the Gambians did was amazing. How they were able to get rid of this president, which is similar to a situation. He had a tighter grip. It's a small country. But the diasporans are the people who got him out. They were running circles around those people. And one of the stories that I think was really important is the fact that they were regular citizens here in the US who would travel. They actually were baiting people in the military, and they were putting up money, like offering them $3,000. I'm going to give you $3,000 if you give me this info. And then they would travel to that country And in another name, when they're there, they use another name, and they will have them in their midst, like the military top guys saying, "This is my friend from the US," and they're recording them. Send it the very next day, and then it will be out. And they were confused. And so Yahya Jammeh was just, it got to the point, just like where we are in Cameroon, they couldn't trust anyone. He was going nuts, guys. And then they were able to, again, the power of the diaspora, they were able, through the Congress and every means they have, be able to seize 2 of his houses in the US. Now we know we have a lot of these thieves in the government right now, way more. This was a small country. So not only did they take, because that was state property, and I'm saying the diaspora, not the government, they took that over. And then he has 2 children who were born in the US, and they're banned not to enter the US for 99 years. Guys, what we can do. I mean, I think we tripled your numbers in the diaspora. What we can do, we cannot underestimate. So, yeah.
So how are we going to collect, are we going to formalize this process of identifying people, the Bensikinas, are we going to formalize how we do that and explain it? Should we, or should it be part of what we do tomorrow on Mimi Mefo and the rest of them?
Yes, I think we already somehow, we probably will not disclose everything here, but there is a network already existing of how we enforce this veil more across the country. And we will leverage that network to be able to engage these actors, whether it's the Bensikinas or the call boxes, leverage that network. All we need to do is assemble the resources and have use the network that has been established to be able to make that go. So in effect, the infrastructure is there now, right, for us to be able to do this. All we need is the mobilization of the resources. And I'll leave it at that, but I think there are people on this call who understand, who know more about about what I'm talking about, and know that we can actually deploy it. So yes, now we have to just formalize how we make the ask to our people, to the larger group. And when we have the network, when we have airtime tomorrow, be able to introduce this to people and have Cameroonians all over. If civil servants in Cameroon can put together 19 billion to build a 5-star hotel for themselves and their families, not 19 billion to open up a cocoa processing plant, not 19 billion to help manage all the process all the food stuff that gets bad in Santa, the tomatoes and the plantains that are being produced across the country that go bad. 65% of our production goes to Rome. Not 19 billion of stolen money for that will create jobs for people. 19 billion to build a 5-star hotel for themselves and their families anyhow. Just that in itself. So this is what we're up against. We have to raise our own money to help the people who are being ignored, whose $200 the 200 francs that Bensikin people have to pay as tax every day to write their Bensikin in, they pay 200 francs. That 200 francs goes up to the pockets of people in the treasury workers. Use your government money to open a private 5-star hotel. And it's abominable to the core that we have to have an alternative financial system, an alternative financial network that can overcome what they're trying to do. And we have the people on our side. We have the interest of the people in heart.
And
we work with them.
I just want to say that, and this is going to be hard, forgive me already, but we have to take responsibility. We created this. We created this by no actions and maybe not knowing a lot of things on how the country is run was kept from us. But this is happening if we continue not to do anything. This abominating acts that are happening, if we continue to do nothing, they are going to continue to happen. They have been happening because we didn't know. We allowed the religion. They divided us to religion, tribes, French and English language. That's why. That is why we have this. Sometimes we think it's magic. Oh, these people. No, we let go. We were so scared. Remember, just 10 inches away, we could just drop from the tree we're holding on to and just come down. But we are scared and we didn't know. And today we're more informed because more of us are in the diaspora. We're educated, we understand, and we have a power that we've never tapped into. Maybe we tapped into the power by our tribes and whatever, and we know that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what we retreated to is we have this great tribal meetings who they've raised hundreds and thousands, and some of them have raised millions in the United States. I really, really want to beg, if we're going to save our country, where everyone is going to benefit, in a way that we have never really imagined, we are going to have that kind of faith, not from the Bamileke tribe, the Banso tribe, whatever. We're going to have as Cameroon. That's what Nigeria has. I don't care what differences they have. We all know that. We know a Nigerian is about Nigeria. That's the kind of pride they have. And that pride doesn't come from some place. That pride comes from the fact that they own it. So the question for us Cameroonians is, are we going to own us? Are we going to own our power? Are we going to own Cameroon? Because the last time I checked, I could not just own the Metat tribe. It's almost ridiculous thinking about it. No matter what we do, no matter what is contributed to the Metat tribe, it's not going to save Cameroon, and the people are still under siege, as we see. This is the deal. We can no longer, I remember Oprah saying, you cannot unlearn what you've learned, Once you know, that's it. You now know. No places to hide. We have got to come out. It is what it is right now. So Ari, thank you, because I'm just, I was speaking to someone. I make it a point every week to text more people. And I said, what we can no longer afford as Cameroonians is ignorance. Ignorant conversations, ignorant, oblivious statements that we're talking Cameroon as an entertainment. No, we can no longer afford that. Each time we do that, a child in Manfe, a child out in some Betty land, yes, that too, they're suffering. The future is being taken away from them while we're, enjoying and drinking in our Thanksgiving in the US and whatever else we do. That child is dying when we don't take it seriously. Their future is being stolen from them. And we cannot say that as a people, we have done anything with our lives that's an assignment God has in front of us, So I just, at the very least, not to be so negative, and I hope it's not a lot of pressure. Well, I do hope it's a lot of pressure, that as we're here right now, everyone that is here, you can start by giving yourself a pat in the back. For those of you who've been, and I see a lot of you who've been consistently, it takes sacrifice. I can tell you how many conference Zooms I will be off for my business than being on here, and being on here for 2-3 hours. I wonder the sacrifice that you guys are making. So it does take a sacrifice, and we should do more. So now we're adding $10 a week. We're going to have to do that. We don't have a choice. I'm asking you, do you have a choice? We don't have a choice. So, it is where we are right now. And it's just how we're going to move on. And it's taken some countries years and years of this kind of, Eric talked about sustenance, resistance, over time, long term. How many of us are willing to, or we're in the entertainment of the immaturity in politics, switch a light. They should do this. They should do this. Who's they? Even Project C, somebody said, oh, Project C should do this. Project C is you. Project C is every Cameroonian. We don't have an organization. We're not a political party. We're just people. That's what Project C is. So every time we ask that question, I wanted to come back. Who are you? As a Cameroonian, you cannot open your mouth and say a word if you're not taking action. Guys, we're in this space because, not for entertainment, we're in this space because a change will happen. The gap between where we are and the change depends on you and I And all the people, like with this $10, if you go to your work and say, I'm going to show you pictures of people who were killed in the country I'm originally from. I want to show you pictures of that. We're raising $10 every week. Can you help me? Oh, I dare you. People will do that. So we are going to raise that money. And you bring names or even say, can you sponsor? Many of you know, you can have people in your communities, in your school, with your friends who would be glad to sponsor. People are waiting. It's Christmas time, guys. People are waiting in this part of the world, in the Western world. They're waiting for us to rise up. They don't need to know our complications. They just need to know you are passionate enough to sponsor $10 a week, a Ben Sikina in Cameroon, and tell them the damn story. Guys, it's gonna happen. That's all it takes. And we can now have this fund or this pot we have, and we pour into it. What it will do to the confidence, the togetherness, what Cameroonians, the people locally who are paying the brunt of this, of course, who've been so bitten down, they barely can stand up. They don't even know it's possible. It will raise them, and that's all you need. The morals, like, Ari said, trading our morals for daily bread, we have gotten to that. That's how we've been living. What other way for them to show us? They need that daily bread, but for us to show them that it can be better. That's our call. All of us. It's what it is.
Is Mimi going to say something about tomorrow?
Yeah, and Kingsley, by the way.
Oh, Kingsley,
I was
okay.
just going to say Mimi, Kingsley, yeah. If they can come up.
Yeah, I am here.
Judith, just put them up right
Yeah.
there.
We'll have an update from with Kingsley, Judith, and hopefully Mimi, and give us a sense of our action for tomorrow. And then we're going to close there. Tomorrow it continues. Monday and Tuesday the pressure continues. But what if we did kick off our $10 a week beginning tomorrow? And during the day tomorrow, if we mobilize people, if there's 1 million of us putting 1,000 of us putting $10 aside, we could easily raise $10,000 tomorrow. And that $10,000 can be invested in the next 2 weeks to make sure that the Monday, Tuesday ghost towns are successful. So we can do this. $10 tomorrow. Come to the conversation tomorrow. We'll be tracking as we're raising the money all through the course of the day. Let's do it. Yeah. Kingsley?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Let me remove this.
We
Hope you
can't
can hear
see
me.
you. We don't know if that's intentional.
I'm trying to find you, but
Yes, so
right
we
here.
just went on. Yeah, so.
Are you able to get on camera?
Yes, I am on camera.
Oh, we can't see you at all. It's dark screen.
it's this. I think there's Enio where you are. Is that Enio?
No, it's actually. Let me see why. Okay, I'm not sure. Anyway, it was on. Oh,
There you go.
yes. It picked.
Good.
Actually, it's too much technology. What it had done, it had picked the camera of my phone connected to the computer. I'm not sure how it did that. So yeah, well, I mean, thanks so much. It's been an interesting conversation. I've been following and followed the ones of the last week after they happened. And I think what I just wanted to do is just address a couple of questions that I see a lot of people asking, where they're asking about how ghost towns did not make a difference in the Anglophone regions. Why do you think it will make it not a difference now? We need action. Yes, Ari has just explained that it did make a difference to the government coffers, but I would just add that it also had a lot of impact on our people. So there's a huge difference why this is different. Just to start off by saying Ghost Town is action. So when you say we need action, Ghost Town is actually action. It's a call to do something. the one thing that you don't want to do is just sit and not do anything. Ghost town is the action that makes this government struggle. I will tell you what their strategy was. And I said this on election day. Those who followed us live, I said it on election day, that they would try to push this into violence. They would try to make it a violent thing so that they can be able to crush as many people and turn it into a protracted war like they have in the Northwest and the Southwest regions. They benefit from a war than they benefit from what we are doing. The reason is simple. When they have a war, they can go around and make themselves, as they play the PT card, say, you know, we've got a war, we've got separatists fighting us, we need military aid, we need collaboration, we need this. They organize all these things, and they get a lot of funding from abroad, from a lot of multinationals, to be able to say that we are helping to bring. I mean, there is a lot of money pumped into what they call reconstruction. They went around doing as if they were doing reconstruction while the war was still going on. They've come back. They benefit from war because they don't care about Cameroonians. And I'm saying this particularly to the people who constantly are saying, oh, we need war, we need this, we need action. And when you talk of action, you think you need guns. You don't need guns to fight the Biya regime, because if you get guns, you would only fight yourselves. They win. Secondly, if you need guns, then you will have to pay a lot of money to foreign powers. And when they are tired of selling you those guns like the United States did, a lot of guns left the US to the Anglophone regions. The US pretended they didn't see. Then they suddenly started arresting the people who sent the guns. The US ambassador to Cameroon at the time actually donated spy helicopters to the regime to help them to tackle the guys in Libya. Don't get carried away by all these things. War is a business, and the people, the poorest of the poor, lose. The regime is hoping and praying that we get down that route. We have disappointed them massively in the last month because we've not gone down that route, and that is why they're scratching their head and thinking, how did these people get so smart? Come on, after 8 years or 9 years of the Anglophone crisis, we learned something. We've learned one thing. You don't want to solve any conflict. You want conflict. I'll tell you something. Look at what happened when the bishop said there was going to be a protest to go and release a priest that was kidnapped. The first thing I picked up from that was that, one, everyone knows where these guys are, but the security forces are not interested. There were parts in Kumbu where you would see the separatists will have their roadblock, and the military will have theirs just down the road. When you pass the military, they'll tell you that settle us, you settle the other people's control down the road. It was the same thing on the road to Mbengui, going this. They collaborate. They work with each other. The people who are the victims of all this are the ordinary people who had to flee. Now, I want to make you understand the difference between the Anglophone crisis and what is happening now. When there was lockdown, the Anglophone regions, people fled to the Francophone regions. When there's lockdown across Cameroon, where are they going to flee to? And do you know who fled when there was lockdown in the Anglophone regions? The people who are the middle class, not the people who suffer. The people who've got their cars, who've got money to be able to send their children to schools. And that is just a tiny percentage of the population. The majority of Cameroonians are poor, because this is what the regime has done. This is what they've reduced our country to, where everyone barely manages to survive. So what they do is that they were hoping that we would be able to do something different, but we are doing the opposite, and we are doing it in a way that they don't know what to do. You can see, for example, some people, I saw some of them saying that they were going to arrest Mama Alice Nkom in 24 hours. Why haven't they touched her? Let them touch her. They can't. The reason is she's broken no law. She is an icon internationally and nationally that they know that they cannot dare. And I said, people were saying, oh, why did Tchiroma appoint? I said, no, Tchiroma didn't appoint. Mama Alice Nkom appointed herself by her actions. She, first of all, earlier this year, showed us what you do to someone like Atanganji, who is spineless. When he illegally locked her office, she removed the seal because he had no right to do it. When they gave her convocations, she looked at the ones that were legal and respected them. The ones that were illegal, she refused to do it. And he did nothing. He's a coward, and she proved that over and over again. That is what made her qualified to be the spokesperson this time around. It wasn't age, it wasn't experience, it wasn't anything. It was that she had shown the power, the experience, the know-how on how to deal with these cowards in Yaoundé, especially that bully called Atanganji. Now, she's done that, and we are here. People say action. And I just said that she appointed herself for a reason. Each one asking, what is the next action? Need to ask yourself, what do you propose to do in your area? What do you propose to do in your area? Because there's something simple about this, and I like to talk with facts. When they had the 3-day ghost lockdown the other time, many people didn't understand what the implications were. People thought it was just a show of force. It was. Tchiroma showed that he controlled Cameroon. It worked, but it was beyond that. One thing I noticed from that was that the people in the north and in the east and in the south did something exceptional. They did something in their own areas. They said, we are on lockdown, no car passes, no car was going. Peaceful, non-violent, you stop them, let them observe. There was one driver particularly who wanted to pass through one place, I can't remember the name, in the north, and they told him ghost town is ending at midnight, and they kept the car until midnight, then he was let to go. Now, what they did was civil disobedience, but there was a very big implication. Tomatoes and onions got very expensive in Yaoundé. Suddenly, onions in Yaoundé was 500 francs. Suddenly, when the lockdown ended and beef, cows came to Yaoundé, CRTV announced it as if Christmas had come in July. They were jubilating. They were so happy to see cows from the north. That told me something. Yaoundé, when they say that Yaoundé breathes, the rest of the country is fine. Maybe that is actually true. Then let the rest of the country stop that oxygen from Yaoundé. What are you sending to Yaoundé? The people of Fumbot who produce the tomatoes and all that, you need to stop sending tomatoes to Yaoundé. You need to say, and let Yaoundé survive, let's see. That is what Ghost Town does. And that is what implementation is about. In your area, look at what does your area send to Yaoundé and stop that and see how they survive for 1 week. I can tell you they won't survive 3 days. A few days ago, it wasn't an economic meeting, it was a security meeting held in Gaoundéré to evaluate the cost of the 3 days ghost town. And in that security meeting, they found out that just one company, one business that benefits from the Chad Cameroon business transport between Chad and Cameroon lost 2 billion. It lost 2 billion in 3 days. That's too bad for that company. But this is the cost of continuing to act as if nothing is wrong in Cameroon. Because let me tell you why Cameroon, people ask, why is it that is in Tanzania? Why is it that it is in other countries? The question has been asked today, why is it that 2 million people in the Gambia could do it? Cameroonians are not. The reason is that we've got a very large pseudo middle class that sits back, and when they say they should be, because when they say there's a protest, ask yourself, who is going to come out for protest? Look at the people who came out for the protest. They are the people who were less likely to benefit if anything changed immediately. They were going to benefit long term. It was young kids. It was young people who hoped that they could just live in a country. Some of them, as we saw in the report yesterday, UNICEF giving ID and birth certificates to Cameroon. Some of them don't even have birth certificates. The basic thing that you should have when coming out from hospital, they don't have. That is all that these people are asking. These kids were asking for. These young people. But then the majority of Cameroonians who have reached a certain level, who can be able to make 100,000 a month and all that, what they do is that they basically think that it's someone else's problem. They buy food, stay at home, and then comment on social media and say, well, we're trying to evaluate whether it was a violent or not a violent protest, or it was thieves on this. This is the problem with Cameroon, where we think that someone else will solve the problem. I mean, the one important thing that I think has happened throughout this election is the diaspora coming up, because everyone in the diaspora has got everything they need to this. Most of us are not more Cameroonians in terms of papers, because Biya has refused to give us double nationality. If it's about those papers, we are not. But guess what? We are Cameroonian by blood, by identity. That the Cameroonianness in us can never be taken away. And that is why we are so interested in what happens in that country. It's not because there's anything to benefit materially. It is because it gives us pride to know that you can talk about Cameroon. I was in Germany the other day and I told a driver, oh, Cameroon. He said, Roger Miller. You know, it's a nice thing, but then that's the only thing he can remember about Cameroon. 1990, when Roger Miller did something in 1990. I felt sad, and then I tried to even mention Eto'o just to see whether he's even, I said, do you know Samuel Eto'o? He doesn't even know Eto'o. That's us. That's how we have been reduced to. Africa in miniature. But the regime has reduced us to a country where we cannot be proud of saying we are Cameroonian. When I went to Nigeria in the early 2000s, I used to tell them that if your president wants you to be happy and stay and just be happy in Nigeria, you know, you need to come to Cameroon. You see how life is. There's a way I used to capture it. So proud of Cameroon, but I knew that Nigeria was like paradise compared to Cameroon back then. But there was that pride that I just felt, you know, that green, red, yellow. You know, it's something that is so innate in us, but all that is going away. And that's why we've just come back. And I want to just wrap up by saying, I've never seen in my young life, 46 years, I've not seen Cameroonians disunited behind an ideal. And that simple ideal is that they say enough is enough. And I have never seen the Biya regime this weak. When I hear with us talk of months and this, I'm laughing. They haven't got months. They've got few weeks. We just need to really sustain it. We need to be able to look at, after these 3 days, I think that the next plan, and it shouldn't come from the president-elect, it should come from us, should be, how do we cut off the oxygen from Yaoundé so that Yaoundé can stop breathing, let the rest of the country live? Because if Yaoundé breathes and the country is fine, but we know the rest of the country has been dying because every oxygen is being sapped away into Yaoundé. Let us cut off oxygen from Yaoundé for 1 week and let Yaoundé survive without the rest of the country, and let's see. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. The young people in the north showed us that they could, without guns, without anything, they could stop everything going to Yaoundé. The people in the east did it. I am sure that Douala can survive without Yaoundé. I'm sure that Bamenda can survive. It has, in fact, Bamenda and Boya has shown clearly they can survive without the rest of the country. So I think every single region, and this is part of what we'll be hearing tomorrow, every region in Cameroon can survive without Yaoundé. But the question I want us to reflect on, can Yaoundé survive without the rest of the country?
Yeah, that is a $1 billion question, billion CFA question that we must answer, because this is what leads to the collapse of the regime. Thank you, Kingsley. You're always very passionate when you come on and you challenge the audience, you make us think, we reflect. And I think that there's a lot of nuggets that we've picked up from the conversation that you had today with our audience. Luta continua. The fight goes on till to tomorrow when we do the worldwide streaming. And these are modern times. This may be a different way of engagement that the world would write about. So let's make history tomorrow by doing something that probably has not been done, but that we Cameroonians now have the ability to do and send a strong message across the world. Judith, I'm going to bring you in here because you've had your hand up here for a while.
No, it was just to, since we are wrapping up, it was just to still give a shout out to what's happening over the weekend. Like Kingsley rightly said, everybody's asking for action. This is action. And you know, there's that statement that show me how you can manage $1,000 and I'll give you $1 million, right? If we cannot little actions now, we should not be asking for more. It's simple, and this is the run again of the weekend. Tomorrow, Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Cameroon time, please go online. It's Ghost Town, but it's online. Everybody should be online. Debates, there will be online voting on topical issues, watch presentations, and make sure that we delegitimize the regional elections that are going on tomorrow. So while they are doing what they are doing, we will be online having our conversations. Monday, Tuesday, Ghost Town, shut down everything. But we in the diaspora, we have a few asks. Make sure that while our compatriots are at home, taking the pain of the Ghost Town, let's do the things that we have been mentioning today. Write letters, tweet, go online, discuss, if possible, wear black. Just do something in solidarity with those that are on the ground, right? Those of us in the diaspora, do something to show solidarity with those on the ground who are doing the ghost towns. This weekend is a start. Let's show the international community who is in charge. It's us, the people. And hopefully this is the beginning of more action to come. But like Kingsley said before, this is action, and we just need to support those of us in the diaspora, do something to support those who are on the ground Monday, Tuesday. But tomorrow, let's try to hit that 1 million mark of Cameroonians online, because that beats that 3.5%. So make sure that you and your friends are online tomorrow from 10 to 7 p.m., 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Cameroon time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. And whilst you're at it, how to support the people in Cameroon? $10, $10. That's 1,000 of us raise $10 tomorrow. I'll come with mine and I'll start the kick off tomorrow at 10 a.m. 1,000 of us raising $10, we would raise $10,000 and it would sustain the ghost town for the next 2 weeks, and we'll keep doing it again and again and again. And we'll build that wall chest. We'll not build a 5-star hotel in Yaoundé. We'll build it in the minds of every Cameroonian. We'll create opportunities for people across the country through our actions. And I want to thank everyone that made, that you all make this sacrifice every Saturday to be here. Because you do this not just for yourself. This is not entertaining. This is because you are committed, that you are invested in the outcome that we want to see, a transition in Cameroon. It's a fight. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we're going to stick with this marathon, and we're going to go, every kilometer together. So please take ownership of this movement. Apply yourself to it, be invested, stay committed, take action one way or the other. And with every day that goes by, if we continue to build, like I said, a rolling stone gathers moss with it. So let's keep going and bringing people along with us. If you are here for your first time today, thank you for being here. Please come back next Saturday. But in the meantime, get online tomorrow. Let's make the movement succeed tomorrow. For those of you in Cameroon, help us sustain the ghost town. You're taking enormous risk to be part of this movement, and we thank you. We thank you for that. But that's what needs to be done. The thing about Tanzania, I think in 1 week over 700 people were killed in Tanzania. 700 people were killed in Tanzania. It's a lot of images, gruesome images, that drew the world's attention to it. So whilst, that in itself, just think about it. I'm not saying that 700 people should be killed in Cameroon. That's not what we want. But just think about that in 1 week. So let's keep the pressure going. We'll get to that tipping point when the world will write about the toppling of the government in Cameroon. And when that is written, it will be written based on the little actions that each one of us is taking. That's the story that we're writing. And I want to thank you for being part of it. Eddie or Eric. You have to unmute yourself, please.
Eric, I was just wondering if Eric has a last word as we close.
Yeah, actually, I'm struggling to think about how we can make sure that the Ben Sikinas and the Bayam Salams know that this effort is being made, because that's what's going to encourage them also to be part of this movement. I don't know. Have we thought about it? It needs, and people need to know if they're going to, if you're going to identify with a Ben Sikina, maybe there should be a list on the other side and a list on this side, and we pair them. I don't know. Have we given it much thought already? Because it needs to be said, and for people to know that this will be happening. And we know, and then we can report at the end of the day how many Ben Sikinas got how much from who, and the next day and the day after. I think these are the things that are really going to encourage people to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, I think we'll work on that presentation so that tomorrow when we're going online, we'll have an announcement on how people can do that, how they can adopt a Ben Sikin, how they can adopt a Bayam Salam, how they can adopt a call boxer or whatever, and then we'll leverage existing networks to be able to get the money out. Yeah.
Okay, and there's this time thing. 6 o'clock in Cameroon is 7 o'clock in Cameroon is 4 a.m. here. So I don't know. My math is horrible.
Yes, I think 10 a.m. is going to be 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we're encouraging people to
wake up early, 4 a.m. and join.
4 a.m. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Adema.
Okay. Any close us out?
Okay. So yeah,